Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett. I'm hoping you're enjoying your Sunday afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed the San Francisco 49ers preseason opener against the Tennessee Titans yesterday. Unfortunately, it was a loss if you actually care about preseason outcomes. 17-13 was the final score. It was a hard-fought game, rather low scoring. None of the Niners starters played in that game, which gives us a perfect opportunity to see the youngsters, the rookie class, the sophomore players hoping to make a statement amongst others. And also, like we've done the past two seasons on the show, we do what we like to call stock up and stock down, where we dissect the game, yes, but also dive into each player in itself and discuss, did their stock go up? Great game, good performance. Are they in the good sights of Kyle Shanahan, or did their stock dip down, maybe pushing them towards the roster bubble, maybe outside of a 53-man projection? It's just how the preseason goes. There usually isn't too much to make of it. And let's be clear here to start the show off. I want to say this. It's the preseason. These games truly do not matter when it comes to the grand scheme of things. The outcomes don't matter. Sometimes the vet playing poorly in a preseason game doesn't matter. What you're looking for is, can that player essentially hang in the NFL? Do they have the makeup? Do they have the instincts? Do they have the speed, the strength? And then, of course, in a Kyle Shanahan system, is the quarterback, the running back, the offensive line, and others playing within the scheme, doing what Shanahan likes to see, which brings us to our first point of the show, is that Kyle Shanahan didn't even call plays yesterday for what he said the first time in nearly 20-plus years in the NFL. You have to think, been a head coach here since 2017, so going into, what is that now, year 8, year 7, as a head coach in San Francisco, was a longtime offensive coordinator before that, pass game coordinator before that, amongst other things. But Shanahan didn't call plays. He relinquished that play calling and handed it to Clay Kubiak, an assistant, which is weird in itself. I totally get why they want to do that. Shanahan can kind of sit back and kind of roam over the entire team like most head coaches do that aren't play callers. Bill Belichick wasn't calling plays for New England. It was Josh McDaniel. He got to do everything else. Now, he's a big defensive coach, but mind you, sometimes, depending on the coach, they can get a better picture of things, a better grasp on how the game is being played out, whether it is calling timeouts or looking at the offense or defense, sitting with certain players, discussing things, or overseeing the game in a different light, which in this case, Shanahan did throw a challenge flag early, which I think shocked everybody. Like, we're getting a preseason challenge flag. Wow, which was cool to see. And it might be, although very small and shouldn't be a big deal, was something that I think everyone could walk away saying, that's a new wrinkle into the Shanahan, I guess, story, if you will. Some smaller things to take away from the preseason game was Jalen Moore did not play. He was sick apparently during the pregame, didn't want to risk it. So San Francisco didn't have their starting left tackle in Trent Williams, didn't have their backup left tackle in Jalen Moore. So not really a good assessment of where the left tackle room is if Trent Williams can't play. Ambry Thomas, who unfortunately, and maybe for his sake and even my sake and your sake, thankfully this happened. I mean, that sounds terrible. I don't want it to be that way, but we were going to rip him. He was having a terrible game. Ambry Thomas was terrible yesterday. Now, we did learn after the game he broke his forearm, which is not what you want to see and hear. You want to have everybody healthy no matter their playing ability. He's a young player. It's rather unfortunate for him, who last year you thought was going to be a starter or hope to be a more impactful player. And there were spurts of that in games last year with Steve Wilks as a defensive coordinator. But now it seems like Ambry Thomas is he was already on the outside looking into a roster spot. Now San Francisco can't even move him to a team that he might be able to find more playing time on. I was always under the impression they would trade him because he has starting experience. He's young, but now that's down the drain. And worse for Ambry Thomas is he might miss the entirety of the year, or if he comes back, it's probably too late for an in-season trade to hopefully get that playing time elsewhere. So for a young player in Ambry Thomas in a contract year, now it seems like a lost season, which is just terrible for him, We also got some news today. The Niners and Saints have canceled their joint practices. The Niners are just too banged up to actually be out there. So they're going to go ahead and hang back at Santa Clara at Levi Stadium on the practice field, which weirdly enough, I get why they're doing this, because San Francisco is going to travel to Santa Clara. San Francisco is going to go from Santa Clara to Irvine to practice with the Saints because they have more fields and that can accompany two teams. Then both teams are going to travel all the way back up to Santa Clara for the game on Sunday, but that's no longer happening. But forget all that. That's all different news, not on the field stuff entirely. And let's dive into our first rendition of Stock Up, Stock Down for the 2024 NFL preseason. This is a preseason only segment we do. So without further ado, let's dive into Stock Up and Stock Down. Want to say hi to Raphael 5629er, says, "What's up, Sterling?" Also says, like and subscribe. I would agree. And Daniel says, yo, yo, yo. Well, I'm going to say, hey, yo. If you get that reference, shout out Scott Hall to Brandon Allen and the quarterback to battle. For one of the first times in the last 3 or 4 seasons in San Francisco, we don't have to talk about the starting quarterback position. There is no longer a battle for who's going to be this team's, number one QB. That battle is taking a back seat because the more important battle in the quarterback room is who is going to be quarterback number 2. I was always under the assumption before San Francisco signed Joshua Dobbs, it was going to be Brandon Allen's job. And even then, despite Joshua Dobbs having a better training camp as of late, struggled early with interceptions and knowing the offense, he's picked things up. But I thought Brandon Allen and Joshua Dobbs had really solid games yesterday. I ultimately think that Brandon Allen played in the scheme more, kind of fit what Shanahan's looking for. Now, to be clear, both very different quarterbacks. Brandon Allen is your prototypical backup. He'll do what Shanahan asks. In this case, what Clay Kubiak asks of him. He's not going to wow you with some throws. He'll surprise you sometimes, but ultimately is going to be kind of an even-keeled. He'll keep you in the game. He's not going to be the reason why you win. Whereas Joshua Dobbs is more of that, I don't want to say roller coaster, but there is going to be higher ups and a lot lower downs, if you will, from Joshua Dobbs. But yesterday against Tennessee's number 1 defense, Brandon Allen looked relatively solid. 53% completion percentage, 98 yards through the air, led a scoring drive in this game, although it wasn't the one to punch it in. Still had this team, I think it was up 7-0 early in the game, I think on the first drive of the game. So a good start for Brandon Allen. I think he had much more highlight throws in this game compared to Joshua Dobbs, although highlight throws really aren't, what Shanahan is dying to see in preseason week number 1. But just diving through his 4 drives we saw from him, it was 3rd and 9. You're sitting there, it's 3rd and long. How is a backup quarterback going to react? Brandon Allen steps up into the pocket, which was a great pocket created by Aaron Banks and Dominick Puni. The offensive line held up pretty well almost the entire night, only 2 sacks allowed on Dobbs and Allen, splitting 1 apiece. But 3rd and 9, Allen steps up into the pocket, hits Ronnie Bell for a 21-yard gain. Was a really nice throw. Then in the exact same drive, Allen hits Chris Conley for 18 yards. So, not back-to-back plays, but certainly really nice throws in the first drive of the game. Started off hot for him on just 2 plays, 39 yards through the air. Really nice. Allen, again, stepping up in the pocket, making plays. Eric Sauber on that play picks up the stunting defensive end coming around the end, which that's what you want to see. Your backup tight end picking up blitzes and your backup quarterback stepping up into the pocket, making plays. And 18 yards downfield is no gimme. That's a nice throw by Brandon Allen. There was some hiccups here or there, but not too many. I think maybe Brandon Allen's worst throw of the game was a ball that he was not a screen pass, but kind of like a choose your route for Brandon Allen, where he has Brayden Willis wide open over the defensive end or linebacker, and all Allen has to do is shoot it over the linebacker and just lob it over his head. He overshoots Brayden Willis, which that's a play Kyle Shanahan is accustomed to calling. So you have to hit those. You really do have to make sure those plays are hitting in a Shanahan offense. And I'm sure of the plays that maybe you can point holes in Brandon Allen's performance, it's probably that one, but he came back really strong later in that exact same drive, found Conley on a floater for a first down. On the next drive, it's 3rd and 9. He has a good pocket, scrambles to his right, although incomplete, and you don't really want to see him scramble. That exact same drive, he comes back 3rd and 3, deep shot downfield to Tay Martin. And honestly, I think Brandon Allen's 2 best throws didn't even count, which if we're talking about the battle of quarterback 2, you have to take that into account. He had 2 beautiful deep balls downfield, again, one on 3rd and 3 on his 3rd drive of the game to Tay Martin. I have no idea how long it would have been, but it was definitely 25 to 30 yards downfield. I think Tay Martin should have caught that ball for sure. Hit him right in the hands. There wasn't much contact there. He just didn't catch it. Then later, he had Ronnie Bell deep downfield. They're backed up against their own end zone, hikes the ball, throws it deep downfield. Ronnie Bell, there was a little more contact there, but again, the ball's hitting Tay Martin and Ronnie Bell right in the hands, and those are deep balls downfield. Those are balls that your backup quarterback usually doesn't throw. Those are balls that Brandon Allen is trying to, hey, Kyle, like, I'm being aggressive. I can win this job, and ultimately taking shots downfield, albeit, isn't the bread and butter of this offense. Shanahan is always going to reward when a backup quarterback, or any quarterback that is aggressive downfield, trying to keep the defense honest. That's what made Brock Purdy stand out so much in his first training camp, was he's unafraid to take shots downfield. Now, Purdy can do so many other great things that have made him one of the best quarterbacks in football, but ultimately, if your backup quarterback is able to keep the defense honest, you're going to hit those throws once it's Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, hopefully Brandon Aiyuk, Ricky Pearsall. You're going to hit those throws when it's George Kittle downfield, not 3rd or 4th string receivers, which is what you want to see. And then you dive into the scheme, the scheme-specific stuff. 4th drive of the game, it's 3rd and 9, and you're backed up against your own end zone. The exact drive in which Tay Martin drops the ball or Ronnie Bell drops the ball deep, hikes the ball, 3rd and 9, fires a shot in between the defender, hits Frank Darby in the chest. He runs for 33 yards downfield. And you're like, Brandon Allen has come alive to a point of 3 of his passes, although not accounting for air yards, 3 of his passes went for over 18 yards. That's really impressive for a backup quarterback. And then later in the game, Tay Martin had to kind of readjust his body, but again, Allen fires it in. I think Brandon Allen was really good in this game, and ultimately his stock is certainly up. But Joshua Dobbs was also good. His stock is also up. 70% completion percentage, 146 passing yards, 6 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 1 pick towards the end of the game on a Hail Mary, which who cares? But I think, again, Brandon Allen did more things that fit in the system, whereas Joshua Dobbs definitely showed off, what he can do with his legs and his size that can maybe separate him from Brandon Allen, give Kyle Shanahan more of a look. You definitely see why teams like to have Joshua Dobbs in the quarterback room. He's a bigger body guy. He can run. He can take hits. He can evade pressure. That's something Brandon Allen can't really do. But again, it's about how you fit and play in the system, where I think Brandon Allen did that. Joshua Dobbs was much more not playing hero ball, just not doing, not hitting the quick slants, not hitting, the things in the flat, not hitting deep crossers. But I do think, again, what Joshua Dobbs brings to the offense is just different than what Brandon Allen does. There was one throw to highlight from Joshua Dobbs besides his highlight reel run where he dives in the end zone, gets flipped over, and then just gets in front of the camera and flexes, which was great stuff. There was a play, I don't know the down of the drive it was, but Joshua Dobbs calls hike, may have been a 5-step drop, and he sees Tay Martin kind of a deep corner route towards the left sideline, and he puts that thing only where Tay Martin can go up and get it. And again, this is a backup quarterback playing with, again, fourth and third string receivers. Tay Martin has definitely, he's one of the better ball skill receivers on the team, but he's a backup for a reason and hasn't gotten his shot because of injuries, but also just hasn't really been good enough just yet. But Joshua Dobbs put it exactly where you want it to be. And I think that, while there is maybe more inconsistencies in Joshua Dobbs' game with the running ability, with honestly a better arm, if we're being honest, I think Joshua Dobbs has the physical talent to be this team's quarterback too. He was given guaranteed money. And I think, the quarterback two competition is definitely heating up, and it has for a while. But, when you have Joshua Dobbs and Brandon Allen bringing the best out of each other, that's exactly what you want. Both of those guys came out ready to go. And that's, again, exactly what you want from your backup quarterback. Was one more impressive? Sure, Allen was going against the ones compared to Dobbs going against the twos and threes. But ultimately, hey, football is football. Got to make plays, got to make throws, and both those guys did that. Both their stocks go up for me. JD Durham says here, this quarterback competition should help Tanner Mordecai mature to, I'm assuming, the quarterback to next year. I wouldn't be too sure Tanner Mordecai is going to be here next year. He's a four-string quarterback on a really good team, and he is a clear-cut four-string quarterback. But that said, you never know. If he's a practice squad player for a year, he certainly has the physical tools to be an NFL quarterback. It's just, can you find the touch in your throws more consistently? But just like Dobbs and Allen were yesterday, Mordecai has shown the ability to be unafraid, to go in there and say, hey, look, what do I have to lose? I'm an undrafted guy anyways, so we shall see. From quarterbacks to receivers, our first stock down of the NFL preseason, that is Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell yesterday had 2 catches for 22 yards. Did have a nice catch from Brandon Allen, 3rd and 9, 21-yard catch. Was a nice catch. It was a nice play from him. The issue is there's still inconsistencies with his hands. Deep ball downfield from Brandon Allen. Hits you right in the face. It goes right through your hands and plunks you right in the face mask. You have to make those catches. You have to be able to bring that ball down, because if you want to be good enough to where last year, different story, and maybe even 2-3 years ago, if Ronnie Bell was a rookie or a sophomore, different story. This year, it's you have a loaded, or rather loaded, receiver room on name value alone. Deebo, Aiyuk, Pearsall, Jennings, Cowling now. There really isn't much room to make mistakes, and Ronnie Bell continues to make mistakes. And whether you want to call them mistakes or not, he's still inconsistent. But one issue I see from him is that, well, yes, he likes to block. It's that when you see Cody Schrader get a 10-yard run downfield, gets the first down, he gets called for holding. Gets the play called back, moves you back 10 yards, it's 1st and 20, and then your offense is in a hole and they can't pull themselves out of. That's on you, Ron. You can't do that. Then later, where a place where he should be able to kind of find his niche, where Isaac Guerendo is currently hurt. San Francisco probably doesn't want Deebo Samuel and Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey, for all intents and purposes, back there doing kickoff returns, and you're battling with Trent Taylor and eventually Cody Schrader and yourself and Danny Gray maybe, and Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowling, who didn't play in this game. You have to block on kick returns. The Titans were phenomenal on kick returns. Phenomenal. And one issue with Ronnie Bell is that when Trent Taylor is the return man on the play, he's getting the ball running up the field, I don't want to see you chop nobody with your hands on nobody and look back like, what happened? What happened is you didn't block anybody, Ronnie. Now, it's not entirely your fault. There's 10 other guys out there, but you have to block. You can't let defenders free or not attack or take on a defender when you are the leading blocker, in a sense, for the return man behind you. You are the one usually opening up space, hitting the first guy trying to get a tackle to free up your return man to get 3, 4, 5, hopefully more extra yards than that. Look at what Tennessee did. Yes, San Francisco's special teams unit wasn't great. We'll get to them later. But they had a 63-yard return. They were consistently getting the ball past the 30-yard line, whereas Trent Taylor got the ball past the 30 once and his average return was like 15 yards. That's not going to cut it. You have to have ball skills. You have to be willing to block, and not just willing, you have to actually block. So I didn't love the effort from Ronnie Bell, and I didn't love the execution either. Just wasn't that great of a day from a sophomore year player that, again, is on the bubble like Danny Gray, like Trent Taylor, and others on the bottom end of the receiver room depth chart. But let's go back to a higher note. Jordan Mason, stock up, 6 carries, 34 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. He was dominant against the majority of the Titans' first-team defense. Yes, there was no Jeffrey Simmons. I think T'Vondre Sweat didn't even play. I could be wrong about that, but definitely no Jeffrey Simmons out there. And Jordan Mason was phenomenal. Did drop 1 pass. The throw was a little too high, but ultimately, the ball was it high? Was it catchable? His hands are on it. You would like to see him bring that down. Certainly wasn't a gimme by any chance, but again, if you want to be in this offense and be a role player or a higher contributor than you were the last couple of years, got to catch the ball. But I can give him a break on that because the way he runs is just aggressive. It's attacking. It makes me shake my head and say, why has he not been giving more reps? Every time he touches the ball, it's 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, almost 6 yards a carry. I said this last night on the postgame show on 95.7 The Game, and if you were there, it sounds redundant, but ultimately, San Francisco has Philadelphia and Tomlinson. They have Christian McCaffrey. Well, in that exact same running back room, the Chargers also had Michael Turner and Darren Sproles. I'm not comparing Jordan Mason to Michael Turner, who had a phenomenal career with the Falcons and went on to be one of the best running backs in football for a short stint of time. I think Jordan Mason can be a powerful back in the backfield. I think there are times where you could run 2 running back sets and have him back there with Christian McCaffrey. And there were times where, if you're really concerned about hoping to alleviate a lot of the in-between the tackle reps by Christian McCaffrey, well, Jordan Mason's right there. And he's durable, rarely ever hurt. And I think he kind of can be the thunder, if you will, to Christian McCaffrey's lightning. I just want to see him get more reps. He does almost everything well, at least when it comes to being a ball carrier. He has vision. He has power. He runs behind the tackles and he finds lanes and he does exactly what you want him to do as a running back with the ball. There are some times, though, where him being a pass blocker is not great. There was one yesterday where it was the first snap of the game. The Titans, who blitzed the entirety of the game, which was just baffling to me, but go ahead, Tennessee, do your thing. They blitzed, and Jordan Mason didn't pick up the blitzer, whereas Cody Schrader and Matt Breida, for as small as they are and for as ragdolled as they were on their attempts, did pick up blitzers many times last night. And I'm not kidding. Matt Breida got decleated last night by a blitzer, but still put his body in the way. Cody Schrader, he did his job to pick up a blitzer. He's 5'9". I'm not saying Jordan Mason didn't try to. It just was like, and got caught in between. Be more assertive, attack the blitzer. Sometimes you don't want to wait for them to come to you. Yes, you want to be in the pocket with your quarterback. Yes, you want to not linger out and leave your quarterback unprotected, but you see the guys come and don't stand there like, what am I supposed to do? Move your body a little bit to at least get them off their track, because there were straight lines right to the quarterback, and that can't happen. If Brock Purdy goes down, it's not going to be good. And if you want to get reps, that's the guy you have to protect in pass protection, which brings us to our second stock down. That is the defensive side of the football. There was no pass rush last night, and I have been harping on this for weeks, if not months. The Niners do not possess depth at the edge rusher position. Yes, Nick Bosa didn't play. Leonard Floyd didn't play. Malik Collins or Devon Hargrave didn't play. It was a group led by Yetur Gross-Matos and co. There wasn't much else out there. But that's the issue. That's what's going to be out there if someone goes down. That's the problem we're seeing. Greg Jackson's now done for the year. There really is nobody else out there for the Niners that I can see picking up. But I do think that San Francisco is going to find themselves in a week or, some weeks during the year where if Bosa's out for 3 weeks, if, Leonard Floyd goes down, God forbid, and his durability gives out in his first year with San Francisco, or Javon Hargrave is down and Malik Collins are out, that's the issue. You don't have any depth. Yes, if one guy goes down, let's say it's Nick Bosa. There's Yetur Gross-Matos ready to go. Okay, well then who takes his spot? Beal Jr., who was terrible last night against the run, who was getting no pressure last night against backup defensive linemen, and it just wasn't a good effort or wasn't good execution from guys that you are going to likely have to rely on at some point this year. And it's actually at a point where I would not be shocked if San Francisco starts cutting players, trying to bring in more veteran defensive edge rushers to fill the room. Because, my goodness, it is really disheartening to see top-heavy people. Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year. Leonard Floyd, almost 10 years in the NFL, 9.5 sacks almost every single year. He is a consummate pro. Yetur Gross-Matos, a guy you have high hopes for, but then nobody behind them. If one guy goes down, the defensive line is a massive question mark, especially on the edge. Now, interior, surprisingly, there is some depth there. I thought, Hargrave didn't play, but they have Jordan Elliott, Malik Collins, Kevin Givens is there. They have guys that have started or could be, impact players if someone else goes down. That doesn't go for the edge group. Not at all. And I think they have to add somebody. They allowed 138 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns against the run. So it's not just the pass rushers. It's the run defense. It's just I hate to say this, and we'll get to the missed tackles and the over-pursuing later, but a lot of the issues that were concerning for the defense late last year, and again, it's the first preseason game, so nothing I say here is concrete. Nothing I say is going to carry over into when guys like Bosa and Warner and the first string team comes back in. But from what we saw last night, missed tackles, bad run defense, not setting the edge, and not getting to the quarterback. What does that tell you? That's exactly how last year was when San Francisco lost 3 games in a row and struggled in the playoffs. Now I'm hoping that will change. I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative here, but that's what your depth showed you, what they can and can't do. Now it's week 1, hopefully against the Saints, and later on in the preseason, we see better things. But your depth is showing you what they're going to show you, most likely, which wasn't good. When you allow 140 yards on the ground to Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, who are going to be Tennessee's 1-2 punch, albeit those are starters, okay, fine. But then you're allowing that to back up offense, the third string, fourth string running backs, and it's not like you're just not setting the edge. These guys are getting in between the tackles, busting upfield for 6-7 yards a pop, and you got guys being dragged. Jalen Graham last night, not even in coverage as a run defender, who he's a hard-hitting guy, can come downhill fast. He got dragged by a 4-string running back 3 or 4 yards, and you're like, what is going on? You guys have to secure tackles. You have to be able to bring running backs down, and they just weren't able to do that last night. And ultimately, 140 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground for Tennessee made me kind of shake my head and say, this is not good, with the optimism that once you get the starters back, that will ultimately change. Fingers crossed. Let's get positive again. Our next stock up, arguably the story of the game yesterday on defense, that is Dee Winters. There was some bad, if you will. He had 2 missed tackles, a lot of over pursuing, a lot of flying around and kind of being not reckless, just not very controlled, if you will. But he had 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and arguably if it wasn't for Malik Mustapha, would have had the hit of the game. 3rd and goal. Will Levis starts to scramble. He's right there at the 1, essentially, and here comes Dee Winters out of nowhere. And he just lays the wood and hammers Levis to the ground. I'm sure Tennessee was like, brother, you got to slide, man. We can't risk losing you. And Dee Winters is out there flexing, having a good old time. And you can tell that kind of, had the defense ready to go, had them ready to rock again. He had them lively and heated. And it was like, woo, Dee Winters, brother, like that's linebacker 2 duty. That's linebacker, starting linebacker stuff right there where you're like, yes. Unfortunately, it was negated by an Ambry Thomas holding call, which led to a Titans touchdown later. So it didn't count in the record books, but in our hearts, it certainly does. But there was some better things as well. There was a play, I'm not sure the exact down or what drive it was, but Dee Winters flew down from the box, bust through the offensive line, got into the backfield in a flash for a tackle for loss. And you were like, yes, like there is instincts. And for the bad, yes, there was a lot of over pursuing. On 3rd and 4, there was a pass in the flat to Pollard to the left sideline. Winters has him dead to rights. Pollard just cuts back. Winters over pursues, misses the tackle. He gets a first down. And you're like, man, Dee Winters, if you just tighten the screws a little bit, you got him. There was one later and definitely hurt San Francisco a little more in regards to how many yards it cost them, because Levis had Calvin Ridley open over the middle, and Winters over pursues. Ridley cuts back and busts it for about 25, 15 yards downfield further than what he was. On the exact same play, Winters gets hurt. He gets hit in the shoulder trying to chase down Ridley. He was ultimately okay. But again, there was good and there's bad. But I can honestly say, despite me being or sounding more negative towards him, I thought Dee Winters showed that his play style fits in the NFL as I hit the mic, and that his instincts were there. Yes, you want to fine tune them. Yes, you want to be able to make sure that he's more again tightened up, more controlled in his efforts. But he was there to make a lot of plays, just didn't finish them off. And I think once he plays more, you're going to find that he gets the reps. He gets more comfortable. He knows where to be, when to stop, when to cut. The more offense he sees, the better he'll get. And that was always the issue with him, just consistency. He's going to flash. He flashed against Tennessee big time, but he needs to be more consistent. The hope is that he's your linebacker 3 this year. I think that he's shown enough to, yes, there's going to be bumps and bruises and lumps along the way, but there's a really good player inside Dee Winters somewhere. It's just, can that come out at a more consistent rate? And I think Dee Winters has that in him to a point where, on 3 linebacker sets, it'll be Fred and Devondre, then Dee Winters, and you hope by the end of the year with Greenlaw in a contract season that maybe Dee Winters supplants him. That's a long time coming, and it's a whole year away, but that is the hope, that the way he played last night, over-aggressive, instinctual, you can honestly say that there was a little bit of Dre Greenlaw in his performance, a young Dre Greenlaw, that is, where take Dre Greenlaw in 2021, younger player, 3 years into his career, if you want to call the COVID season a year, where you're just like, when Dre Greenlaw is overamped and is excited, he's a walking personal foul. Now, that's not Dee Winters in regards to fouling, but even in that, Dre Greenlaw will over pursue. He'll run past their ball carrier and get beat 15 yards downfield, and he has to kind of get reined back in where Fred's on the sideline, kind of like, you got to calm down, Dre, got to calm down. A little bit of that is in Dee Winters, where it's like, you're so amped up. If you just calm down, you'll make these plays. And yes, there was some stuff where you're like, oh, okay, like you're biting on play action, but ultimately that just comes with reps. And I thought I really liked what I saw from Dee Winters against Tennessee, which brings us to a place where Dee Winters was in a stat column you don't want to be. Missed tackles, right? San Francisco last night had 16 missed tackles. George Odom, Tabor Pepper, Rock Ya-Sin, Jalen Graham, and Curtis Robinson all had 1. Ambry Thomas, Tatum Bethune, Ezekiel Turner, and Dee Winters had 2. And Taylor Hawkins, who, yikes, just a lot of missed tackles. He had 3 on the night. That's how you lose games. Now, a lot of the guys I mentioned were young players, rookies, backups. I totally get that. Some of them aren't even going to make the team. but you can't miss 16 tackles with 4 of them being on special teams. In fact, when Ambry broke his forearm, that's how he missed the tackle. He didn't even touch anybody, missed the tackle, and broke his forearm. Like, it's just not a good look. The whole game, it was screen passes in the flat. The Titans were getting things for, 15 yards. And you're like, it's 3rd and 5. Great. You have them where you want them, and they get off the field because no one tackles. Even Rocky Sin on a play where the guy goes out of bounds, he misses the tackle. If the guy stays in bounds, it's 20 more yards downfield. And I thought Rocky Sin was okay. He was fine last night, but you have to make tackles, especially as a linebacker and a defensive back. One of the biggest issues with San Francisco late in the year and during their losing streak, and even in previous years, go back to, 2021 against the Cardinals, when it was Colt McCoy, and they couldn't stop anybody in the backfield because they weren't tackling. Tackling for as athletic as you are, for as fast as you are, and as strong as you are, and again, as athletic as San Francisco's linebacker core and defensive backs usually seem to be, you can't miss tackles. You're going to be there. You're going to be in position, but you're trying to make big plays going for the legs instead of being a body tackler. It's okay to use your arms. It's okay to use your body to bring somebody down. You don't have to make the highlight reel play. You just got to bring the guy down to the ground. Yes, there are players you want doing that. Talanoa Hufanga, Dee Winters last night, Malik Mustapha yesterday. I don't want Taylor Hawkins and Tatum Bethune and George Odom and who else is on here? Rocky Sin and Ezekiel Turner making these thumping hard tackles when you're going to miss it. Just bring the guy down. I'd rather you tackle the guy than let him go 5 more yards downfield for a first down. It was a massive concern. Now, you hope, and this is why I preface this early, it's week 1 of the preseason. These guys have not been able to tackle each other for months, since February. That's the first time they've truly been able to tackle. So I'm hoping there was just some overzealousness, if you want to call it that. There was overeagerness to attack the ball carriers, but you want to see Nick Sorensen hopefully, retune and kind of, tweak the linebackers and defensive backs mindsets that you got to be able to figure this out, because if you can't tackle, you can't play. You just can't play. That brings us to our next stock up, Chris Conley. I think as of now, he has the wide receiver 6 spot locked up. You're going to have Deebo, Aiyuk, and Jennings, and Pearsall and Cowling. There's 5 guys kind of locked into a roster spot. Who's that 6th guy? Yes, I think San Francisco is hoping players like, Danny Gray and Ronnie Bell, who are younger and more exciting, can catch up. Chris Conley, to me, has been, Mr. Consistent. He has been, just the epitome of a veteran of, like, you come in, you're a professional, 2 catches, 30 yards, caught an 18-yard pass from Chris Conley, or from Brandon Allen, and he's been doing it dating back to last year against the Rams in Week 18, although it was a loss. He played a nice role in the Super Bowl. Special teamer in training camp this year, he's been stellar. And even now in games, like, not that I'd be comfortable with him being the number 2 receiver in an offense that should have, better players on it, and you hope it's Aiyuk come week 1, but man, like, Chris Conley was really good, and I think, if Ricky Pearsall misses time with the shoulder, or, like Papa J says here, although that isn't the hope and the want, as of now, yeah, Chris Conley is more accomplished, more proven than a player like Cowing, like Trent Taylor, like, and to an extent, Ricky Pearsall, to where I could see where maybe Chris Conley is the team's 5th receiver on certain downs, and if someone goes down, he's the outside guy. Like, let's say this, for example. Let's say Ricky Pearsall's shoulder injury carries over into the regular season. Week 1 against the Jets. Aiyuk isn't playing. Who's opposite Bosa, Deebo, and Juwan Jennings? It's probably going to be Chris Conley. That's how good he's been, and I think he's locked in a roster spot to a point of we don't even really need to talk about, who is getting in, the running back room. Danny Gray, you're gone. Ronnie Bell, you're a practice squad guy, and Trent Taylor, you're a vet who's probably a practice squad guy too, and maybe an elevation each week. That's where I really think, that's where things are. And I'm pretty sure it's on. Like, that's for as many bodies in the receiver room, it is arguably the most straightforward competition of any position on the roster. It is Deebo, Aiyuk if he actually re-signs or plays this year for us, Juwan Jennings, Pearsall, Conley, Cowling, or a mixture of the last two guys. Everyone else can go eat rotten eggs for all I care. Probably not going to be here. They've done nothing to prove it, while Conley has every single day proven his worth. Next stock down is pretty straightforward. Jalen Graham in pass coverage has shown that he's a 7th-round pick for a reason, and his value likely isn't in pass coverage. Unfortunately, you got to be able to cover the passing game. You have to cover tight ends, running backs, and even sometimes receivers to play on this defense. And especially in this NFL, which is so shocking because he was like a nickelback safety linebacker convert where like you should be good at pass coverage. Not. He's just not. So many guys were open on the flats and the outside, and he was missing guys left and right. There were miscommunication everywhere. Now, young player, miscommunication happens. That's just the way it goes. But ultimately, it's like, okay, like how long can you forgive that? Now, he's in year 2. You can be a practice squad guy. You can be a depth guy for a year. No one's going to be like, what are we doing with Jalen Graham? It's understandable, but that's what makes players not be able to get on the field is pass coverage in the 2024 version of the NFL when tight ends run 4.5s and 4.6s and running backs are running 4.2s and 4.3s and slot guys are bigger body Puka Nakuas and Marvin Harrison Jr.'s and JSNs and Jamar Chases and others. And you're like, you gotta hang with these dudes. Jalen Graham yesterday couldn't hang with backup receivers, backup running backs, and backup tight ends. It's not a good look for a guy who's in a positional group that is kind of looking for answers still. But ultimately, as of right now, it's Fred, it's Devondre, it's Dee Winters and Demetrius Flanagan-Falls, and then maybe Tatum Bethune, who I think, although wouldn't be a stock up or stock down player, had a nice even keel performance where there was some down, there was some up, but ultimately led the team in tackles yesterday. He made some plays, and with more reps, he seems to already be ahead of Jalen Graham on the roster and depth chart for me at least. So not a great day for Jalen Graham as a pass coverage linebacker. And as many of you have said in the comments, I can see you here. Khalil Young says this, Khalil Davis was looking like DJ Jones out there. Papa J says Davis was a beast. And that is my next stock up on a player. I walked into training camp with the bold predictions video, and I am very happy to say that I was wrong so far. We shall see. I was wrong so far about Khalil Davis, that his health was a concern. I said that he's so unproven. There have been injuries. They were going to cut him and bring in someone like Hassan Ridgeway that was here a couple years ago. He's a vet, knows the system. And Khalil Davis yesterday, he went to the kitchen. He made me dinner. He gave me a spoon and said, eat this crow for the night. And I said, I'll gladly take it. He had 2 tackles for losses. He had 1 sack. There was a couple plays where he was overzealous, like many players were last night. And he got upfield too quickly on a trap play, didn't read it very well, but then he came back and he was in the backfield consistently last night. Didn't always make the tackle, but he had the team's only sack. He also, again, had 2 TFLs. And when you can get in the backfield, and this is how I'll phrase many of my critiques of young players. When you have a defense that will hopefully have a healthy Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga, Jair Brown, Mooney Ward, Diamador Lenore, Isaac Yadam, Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Javon Hargrave, and for a player like Khalil Davis playing alongside them, Dee Winters playing alongside those guys, Malik Mustapha alongside those guys, you're going to be able to mask their weaknesses. You're going to be able to hide them, especially on a defensive line that is stacked at the top of the depth chart, where Khalil Davis, in a pinch, could play next to Hargrave and Bosa and Floyd while still being the weakest link. It's not going to show up as drastic as it was. And you heard when he got drafted, people said, DJ Jones, and he's finally healthy. And last night, albeit against backups, I think Khalil Davis showed that he belongs on the roster. And I think this team's going to need him. People get hurt, guys go down, and yes, you brought in a lot of defensive linemen. You brought in 4 new defensive linemen that will contribute. Jordan Elliott, Malik Collins, Gross Matos, and Leonard Floyd. Kalia Davis, I think, could be this team's, 4th defensive tackle, 5th defensive tackle, where someone inevitably is going to go down. And if he can play the run or get to the quarterback, I mean, my goodness, yes, you need guys on the roster like this. And you don't want to look ahead because it is preseason week 1, but Malik Collins' contract isn't guaranteed next year. There's a way where San Francisco can, finagle the cap and, hey, Kalia Davis, come on down to a starting job. Now, again, long ways away, but all that to say that if you can continue to stack days like this, well, Kalia Davis could find himself in a really good spot on the depth chart and on the roster. I want to shout out Aaron in the comments, Niners First Takes, what's going on? Papa J, I see you in here. Khalil Young, JD Durham, thank you guys for watching and listening. Daniel, if you're still here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys like the new overlay for Stock Up, Stock Down. Made it this morning. We're going to continue to use this for the next 2 weeks on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you're watching. Unfortunately, on the podcasting platforms, you can't see it, but I hope you guys like the new graphics for the Stock Up, Stock Down. Unfortunately, though, we have to go back to a stock down. That being Trent Taylor. Can I ask you a question? Are we really serious about Trent Taylor? Are we actually starting to be like, we really like Trent Taylor now. We're going to buy into this guy. He's a great return man. Yes, he gives you the bare minimum of a return man. He catches the ball. He'll catch the ball. He'll fair catch it. He'll make sure he doesn't fumble. But is that truly what you want? Last night, he had 3 catches for 48 yards, which isn't that bad. 1 carry for 28 yards. But take his carry, for example. Yes, you got 21 yards. That's a heck of a play. Good job. Kudos to you, Trent Taylor. But my issue with Trent Taylor is on an offense that has so many playmakers, Deebo, Aiyuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, and to various degrees, Tay Martin, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, a lot of those guys are able to make moves after the catch, after they get the ball in their hands. That is not Trent Taylor. He's running full steam ahead up the right seam, what looks like to be towards the end zone. And you got a few guys to beat, but you think, okay, this is where you make your move. This is where a ball carrier, a playmaker, makes a juke, makes a spin, hurdles somebody like Aiyuk against the Eagles in 2020. This is where Deebo powers through the defense. What does Trent Taylor do? He just goes, he stops and gets tackled. And you're like, great run. But like, what are we doing? Like, okay, cool. Then you get to his returns. He had 4 total returns yesterday for 61 yards. I don't know, quick math here. You in the chat can do it. 61 or 4 into 61. It's definitely what it, I don't know, 12. That isn't right at all. But whatever. He had 3 kick returns last night. 1 for 25 yards, or excuse me, 1 that went to the 25-yard line, 1 that went to the 28-yard line, and 1 that went past the 30-yard line. He had 1 kick go past the new touchdown or touchback marker. That's not going to cut it. And yes, I would like to assume San Francisco wants Cowing and Garendo and Pearsall back there. Dynamic playmakers back there. That's not Trent Taylor. 15 and 1/4 average yards. Thank you, Robbie. It wasn't 12. I was almost there, but it was not 12. But do you want 15 and 1/4 average return yards with the new kick return rule when you just watch the opposing team use a rookie receiver go 63 yards downfield? Yes, again, guys were injured. They didn't play, and the hope is that Trent Taylor likely doesn't even make the team. But he's a vibes guy. Oh, when Trent's around, we feel good. It's loose. It's awesome. I'm sorry. Maybe as a receiver, he's okay. He's a vet. He knows the offense well. Fine. I don't want a laundry basket as my return man. We had Richie James. We've had other guys back there that just can't do stuff. And you're right, Papa J. If this was 2 or 3 years ago, cool, Trent Taylor. This day and age, the new kickoff rule does not benefit him. And it stinks because I like Trent. We all like Trent. He's a great guy. I just don't want a basket. I want someone that can be back there and be shifty and move around and, make a play. Trent Taylor's not going to make you a play. He'll catch the ball. He'll call for a fair catch. And the new kickoff rule that should benefit your offense, I mean, man, like, it's just not worth it to me. It's just not worth it to me. Like, we got to find somebody else that can return kicks. Papa J says here, Sterling, nobody in the league is doing big returns except for a handful of them, if that. Can't judge him. You're right. First preseason game. It's clear San Francisco doesn't really know how to attack this thing just yet. But even then, it's just clear with Trent being out there, there is no expectation for a big return. Parker Washington had one. The guy for Tennessee had one, Jackson, yesterday, which is more of an indication of how bad San Francisco's special teams defense is. But I honestly am kind of chomping at the bit to see Garendo and Cowing and Cody Schrader and Ricky Pearsall out there. Because I really just don't want to see a wasted kickoff return every single time it's Trent Taylor and even Ronnie Bell, for example. Like, this, why? Let it go in the end zone every single time. 2 of your 3 returns would have been better than that. Would have been better than that. I don't love that. Robbie says here, with all due respect to Trent Taylor, seems like a nice guy. Not the Trent I want on the roster. You got that right. And about Trent Williams, they're going to get this thing done. It is the exact opposite of Aiyuk. They have to pay him. He's not a luxury. They have to pay Trent Taylor. Or excuse me, don't pay Trent Taylor. Pay Trent Williams. I'm sorry. Moving to a more positive note again is Dominick Puni. What can you not say? He continues to check off every box you may have for him. Good in pass block, good in run block, opening up lanes. He had 14 pass block opportunities yesterday, 0 pressures, 0 sacks against the first and second teams of the Tennessee Titans. He on Brandon Allen's 3rd and 9, 21-yard completion to Ronnie Bell, Aaron Banks and Dominick Puni were opening up space. He was picking up blitzes. He was picking up stunts. He was doing exactly what you wanted. And arguably his biggest, play of the night was Jordan Mason runs 3 yards. He's at the goal line. Here comes Dominick Puni pushing him in for a touchdown, pulling him in for a touchdown. And you're just like, this screams Alex Boone. This screams Joe Staley of just effort. I'm not saying he'll be those guys. That's crazy, but he's got the personality. He's doing everything you want as a rookie. And not to get ahead of myself, but he's got a firm grip on that starting job at right guard. I thought Dominick Puni was great in his Niners preseason debut. Unfortunately, though, stock down. That brings us to Brayden Willis, a guy who I had penciled in as my tight end at number 3 and has had a better training camp than I expected him to be. Just back and forth with Brayden Willis. There's really good stuff you see, picking up blitzes, opening up blocks during training camp. And then I know they had him playing fullback yesterday, and I get why. Juszczyk didn't play. You don't have Charlie Warner. You don't have a backup fullback in the room anymore like you had with Josh Hokett for a little bit of time. But it is so clear that Brayden Willis has never played tight or fullback in his life. And that's okay. He's a young guy. He's only in year number 2. But the tight end room has underwhelmed a lot to a point where you just cut a guy that some people thought would be, a role player, being Logan Thomas. And that opens up a door for a player like Brayden Willis to, there's one less guy I have to compete with. And, it wasn't the greatest performance. There was a run by Cody Schrader where Brayden Willis takes on the defender, but instead of opening up the hole, he filled the hole. And you're like, Brayden, you have to open up room for the running back. You don't clog the lane for him. Trader gets stuffed and goes nowhere. And it's like, Brayden, like, come on, man. He was open a couple times and the quarterbacks missed him, so no fault of his own there. But the blocking, as a fullback at least, not his strong suit. Not really his strong suit. It's not a great day for Brayden Willis, and hoping in the next 2 days, practice and preseason against the Saints, he picks things back up, because that tight end 3 job is open, albeit he still has a lead there behind Kittle and Saubert. Back to a stock up, then we'll get to our final stock down, and then some mixed results of yesterday's preseason opener against the Tennessee Titans. Malik Mustapha, I think, if not for Dee Winters, was probably the most impressive player on the field. He was awesome. He was awesome. Yes, he bid on some, he bid on some play action, and thankfully the guy was not in bounds. He was awesome. The highlight play of the day was, it's with 4th and 1, you're backed up against your own end zone. The running back gets the ball, is kind of like about to jump to the edge and get around the linebacker and the edge rusher and get to the end zone. And here comes Malik Mustapha out of freaking nowhere, just shot out of a cannon, and all you hear is thud, the crack of the pads in the helmet, and he's out there like, yeah, and you're like, yes. And I said it when they drafted him. I'll say it in the scouting report. You can go back and watch it, and I'll say it now. He's a playmaker, and this goes for Dee Winters too. Despite their mess ups, their screw ups, the things you can point to and say that wasn't very good, biting on play action, over pursuing, at least they're at the ball. They're near the ball. They have shown the ability of the speed, the instincts that I know where I'm supposed to be, and I know I can get there. It's just making plays. Mustapha, even on special teams, you go back and watch the opening kickoff of the second half. He's sprinting downfield with a Titans player on his shoulder, and he lays out the return man. You need that speed. You need that, you need that intensity from the safety room to the special teams defense. You need that. That stuff that made Hufanga so lovable early in his career. And again, he's become an all-pro in year number 2. But Malik Mustapha yesterday was, yes, again, there was some bad. Just need reps because they're really going to figure this stuff out. The intensity's there. The playmaking ability is there. And you can tell these guys want it, and their bodies, their physical makeup, they can hang in the NFL. They can succeed in the NFL. And man, it was really stellar to watch Winters and Malik Mustapha, who I truly believe, whether it's at the end of this year or sooner than later, he's going to be the best safety on this roster. He's going to be the best safety on this roster. I'm not overreacting. You go back and watch the college tape. It is something else. It's like, okay, he can cover, he can tackle, he's going to make mistakes. Rookies take their lumps. There are going to be these welcome to the NFL rookie moments for them because they're rookies. But the more reps they get, the more they play along the all-pros on defense, these guys are going to be special. Mainly Malik Mustapha, who I think ultimately by the end of this year could be better than Jair Brown and, for a little bit of time, be better than Talanoa Hufanga, which seems sacrilegious at the moment. Our final stock down is exactly where I praised Mustapha. Special teams. Holy hell, was it terrible yesterday. Offensively, as return men, not great. Not many angles and places to run and holes to go through. On defense, 10 times worse. I don't know how Schneider still has a job. The special teams on this roster, whether it was last year, 2 years ago, and now this year, it seems like through one preseason game, which is not worth much, but still, the special teams unit has struggled every single year, no matter how many guys they bring in, whether it is George Odom or Oren Burks or McLeod, and this year it's, you have Odom back and Ezekiel Turner. It's like, I know there's new rules, but they had 4 total returns to defend last night. 2 punts, got 26 yards. Not that bad. 13 yards a punt. Okay, whatever. You don't even have your first string punter, if you will. But on kick returns, 2 kicks, 81 total yards. The first kick off by the Niners special teams unit. 63-yard return. Brayden Willis over pursues. The guy cuts back. Jalen Graham misses the tackle. And then freaking Kyle Shanahan, I think, gets called for a 15-yard penalty because he's too busy watching plays for the offense and gets in the way of the actual play on the sideline. It's like, brother, you gave the opposition the ball on your own 15-yard line. Now, I know I'm getting kind of frustrated, and the reason why I am because it's not as if that's not going to cost them come the regular season. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. There's going to be a game, and knowing our freaking luck, it'll be against the Chiefs. We're going to have them. Oh, there's the Niners are up 27, to 20, 27-21, whatever the score, whatever it might be, 23-20 with 13 seconds left, and there's going to be a gigantic return by Hollywood Brown or Kadarius Toney or Xavier Worthy, and then we're going to add them 15 yards because no one can tackle. They get called for a penalty, and we're going to give Mahomes the ball on the 13, 15-yard line and say, try to stop this, and they'll have 2 plays to score a touchdown and win the game. That screams Niners luck, which we have a lot of it. We've won a lot of games, but the special teams unit continues to be an Achilles heel of this team. Go back to last year against the Packers in the playoffs. Oh my God, it was bad. Terrible. There are plenty of times. And it's just like, it's like there's new rules. You want to give coordinators and the players time. But it's like, if you're not going to defend the returns, just kick the ball into the end zone, give them the extra 5 yards and call it a day. I'd rather than march 70 yards than 15 yards. And again, it's one game. I think as this thing progresses, we'll see new things, but it is still abundantly clear that this unit would have been bad with the old rule, and with the new rule, it's even worse. Like, they couldn't even defend the old ruling. Like, I have no confidence they're going to be able to field and defend the new rule. It's just a big yikes, especially when you have more dynamic returners back there. Like, no one off the top of my head comes to mind, but you're going to have teams put their best receiver or running back there. You're going to have these dynamic studs of return men. And Tennessee, although he's fast and was good in college at returns, he's not a top-tier dude. This really can, of anything, of missed tackles, over pursuing, the special teams unit is more concerning than anything I've seen because it was a disaster. But that being said, on to our mixed results. Let's end on a good and high note. Not too negative, not too positive. Let's end like a Goldilocks, right in the middle. I thought mixed was Rocky Sin. I thought Rocky Sin, especially with Ambry Thomas going down, it certainly opens up a spot in the in the cornerback room. Now, I don't know if that was ever going to be filled by Ambry, but it certainly, again, knocks a name out of the room for contention. So I think Rocky Sin was okay. I'm not too high on him, but I'll give him credit. They threw a fade route to Calvin Ridley, who is now the Titans' #1 receiver, and Rocky Sin locked him down. He got his hands on him, wouldn't let him go, and wasn't called for a penalty, kind of knocked Ridley off his route, made the ball kind of go in the back of the end zone where no one was there, and you point to it and you go, that's good. That's really good stuff right there by a cornerback, a vet wanting to make the roster, and a hyper-physical cornerback that really hasn't been able to stick. I think he's a former first or second round pick of the Colts a handful of years ago, so a really nice play there. Then there was one later in the game where there was a toss to the left sideline, and Rocky Sin kind of jumps the route, gets his hand in front of the receiver, and kind of makes it tough for a catch, and it was ruled incomplete. And it's that stuff where it's man coverage, you're one-on-one with somebody, and you lock down your receiver. That stuff that makes people, at least myself, say, okay, what you got, Rocky? Show me what you got. And I thought it was a pretty solid day from Rocky Sin. Again, there was some missed tackles. It just is what it is. I thought his worst tackle would have been the one that the guy, his foot touched out of bounds, so it wasn't actually a missed tackle, but in my book, it was. I see what you did, Rakia. I see your sins. But ultimately, this is a fine day. Tay Martin, I thought, started kind of clunky. He had that big drop early from Brandon Allen, but I think as the game progressed, you saw him kind of come into his own and get comfortable. Don't forget, Tay Martin missed a large portion of last season to injury, but also missed like a lot of training camp the first 2 weeks, I think, with injuries this year to his hamstring. So he hasn't had the entire offseason program to get acclimated and, kind of get his feet wet again in the NFL. But he had 5 catches last night, led the entire team. Also had 58 yards, led the entire team. So, and it's not just a box score. It is, you can see his ability to contort his body, to go up and get it, and ultimately, be, I don't want to say a just phenomenal ball catcher, but he has ball skills that other guys don't possess. For as good as Deebo Samuel is, for as good as Aiyuk is, I truly believe that there would be a competition, and Tay Martin would be in that grouping of receivers that can go up and get it, contort their bodies midair to go up and catch the football. And, they call him, big play Tay for a reason. And I don't think he'll make the roster, but he certainly gives you something else that you don't currently have or don't have a lot of, where if, let's say, Aiyuk doesn't play and Pearsall's injured and you're uncertain, if Tay Martin can get hot late in preseason or during the preseason, again, he's not going to make the team, but I can see him being an elevation during 1 week, and I can see him making a few plays. He's not a bad player. I just think he's young, but he hasn't really gotten a chance to find his footing in the NFL. And yesterday, despite starting with the drop, he had a really nice day. 5 catches, 58 yards, and I think showed off his ability to go up and get the football. We have a comment here by Kenny. He says, I want to rock his sin all night long, Kenny. All night long. Robbie439 says, rather off topic, but I'll take it anyways. Did you watch any of Trey Lance today? His words, not mine. Yikes. He even put the trash emoji. I didn't watch Trey Lance. I wanted to. I just didn't get an opportunity. I really want Trey to succeed, and it really pains me to watch the highlights. He had a few nice scrambles. Just, I don't know, man. It just, every time I watch him play, I get sad because of what could have been. He shouldn't have been drafted 3rd overall. It's not his fault he was picked that high. He shouldn't have been picked that high. He actually should have gone back to college. That's what he should have done. He really should have transferred to D1 school and hopefully got his reps there. But man, it's just, the touch isn't there. He just needs more time. And he's so young. If he just went to college for 4 or 5 years, they could have fixed this stuff. He could have got the reps he needs. Just a bad situation for Trey. And I hope he figures it out, but just yikes. Our final mixed bag of the first week of preseason is rookie second-round pick Renardo Green. He had 4 tackles, a fumble recovery yesterday. He looked really good in run defense. I know, yes, a lot of missed tackles. I don't think he had any, but he was really good against the run. He was stout as a tackler. He was getting guys down on the ground. He was really, really strong defending and not over pursuing and not being afraid to attack bigger ball carriers. And you can see why San Francisco likes him in the slot or wants to give him a chance there, because you have to be a really good run defender in the slot. And he was that yesterday, playing outside and inside. There was some coverage issues, but I think ultimately those were rookie mistakes, biting on play action and just kind of not being, I don't want to say well prepared. There was a lot of miscommunication out there. And I think as a rookie, that's expected to happen, but a lot more good than bad from Renardo Green. I'm sure someone will dive into the all-22 tape and tell you this, that, and the other. But I think all around, it was a solid day. When you get 4 tackles, you get your only team's takeaway. It's a really good thing. Whereas that ball should have been Alex Barrett's. Some players would have not kept going. They would have stopped thinking their guy had the football. That was not Green. He made it a point I'm not going to stop until I get the ball in my hands, which is great for a young player to you got the ball. You hold that up. You carry it like it's a prized possession because you got your only team's takeaway yesterday. And honestly, gave your team a chance to win. Really did give your team a chance to win. But yeah, week 1 of the preseason in the books. San Francisco is 0-1. For what it's worth, 17-13, the final score of the preseason week 1 matchup against the Tennessee Titans. Tell me what you thought about the game down below. Who'd you have stock up on and whose stock plummeted for you after week 1 against the Tennessee Titans? You can also follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers is the, 49ers.access is the Instagram. And you can use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And if you're like me and you're frustrated and annoyed, you have to go to all these different locations to find your sports news, forget that. You only need one website. That is sportsspider.com. They collect the latest articles, videos, podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite team all in one place. So if you want to stay up to date on your and mine San Francisco 49ers, hit that link down below in the description and check out sportsspider.com. We have one question here from Robbie. Then we got to get out of here. He says, do you extend BA or do you extend Lenore and Ward and let BA walk? I let Mooney Ward walk, and I re-signed Brandon Aiyuk and Diamador Lenore. That's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed week 1 of the preseason. I hope you enjoyed this rendition of Stock Up and Stock Down. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Leave that review on the audio podcasting platforms. Give us 5 stars and put whatever you want in the review as well. I don't care what it is. Just give us 5 stars. Tell us how your day was. What'd you have for dinner? It doesn't matter to me. And as always, until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.